Moment, we are really waiting to know what went wrong at Softbank and why Nikesh Arora, who was widely seen as the heir apparent for Mr. Sohn, has chosen to step down. The information that Kritika just gave us from the press release seemed to indicate, reading between the lines, that it could be a question of not getting to the top spot very quickly, with Masayoshi Sohn choosing perhaps to stay even post 60. He's 58 now, and he probably thinks he's young at 60. That was the statement that Masayoshi Sohn made in that press note, and it therefore looks like Nikesh Arora has decided to move on. That's the breaking news that's coming in. Shereen and Kritika have both joined us now. Shereen, first thoughts, comes as a shock?
Well, yeah, it is certainly a curious development, Latha, because just yesterday the Softbank board had said that Nikesh Arora has been cleared of all allegations of possible misconduct, and this was a committee that was set up by the Softbank board to look into those allegations that had been raised by a shareholder. So it's curious that just a day after the board-led committee gives Nikesh Arora an all-clear that we hear of this decision.
Yeah. Shereen, we'll just come back to your audio is not at its best, so we'll just fix that. But yes, you know, that clearance came, the clean chit came from the internal committee yesterday, saying that he's cleared of all allegations of any wrongdoing, and that the decisions he took were pure strategic investment decisions by Softbank and on behalf of Softbank. Kritika, would you read any link between those allegations and Nikesh Arora stepping down, or is the stepping down more likely that there were question marks about his future role because of Masayoshi Sohn changing his mind?
You know, Latha, so what they've done in the press release is stayed away from addressing the clean chit that was given just yesterday. They have tried to very categorically say that there was an issue with respect to expectation, and as Latha, you're pointing out, with respect to the expectation between the chairman and the CEO, wherein Nikesh Arora wanted to take over and wanted to be the next successor. They've said that very clearly. But the fact of the matter is, you can't deny the clean chit was given yesterday. There was a detailed investigation that was undergoing in the last 4 months. There were many to and fro in terms of what exactly was discussed and what the committee had found. So you can't completely rule out the fact that that clean chit is a little bit of a question mark. We in fact have Shereen back with us. Shereen, you know, they've stayed away from mentioning, as Latha was pointing out, they haven't said exactly, you know, if that clean chit given is a question mark, if there was any issue with respect to that. But isn't it curious that just a day after the clean chit was given, he stepped down, even though it was just citing succession differences?
Yeah, I mean, the timing of this development is curious, but we've got to take the clean chit on face value. I mean, we cannot assume that what Softbank has put out publicly, you know, in a statement yesterday saying that they have cleared and exonerated Nikesh Arora of any possible misconduct on his part. So we've got to take that at face value until we have anything suggesting otherwise. But the fact of the matter is, and this is what is interesting. I mean, Masayoshi Son was questioned about why he brought in Nikesh Arora in 2014, about the kind of compensation that Nikesh Arora was being given. And even when the shareholders' questions arose, even then Masayoshi Son came out in full support of Nikesh Arora, saying that he doesn't believe that Nikesh is guilty of any inappropriate conduct on his part. And even yesterday, along with the Softbank statement, there was a statement from Masayoshi Son saying that he stands vindicated. He'd always had faith in Nikesh Arora. But, you know, it's just a question of an expectation misalignment. Nikesh Arora tweeting saying that Masayoshi Son wants to continue to lead for another 5 to 10 years. And even the statement goes on to say very clearly that the difference of expected timelines between the two leads to Arora's resignation from the position of representative director and director of Softbank Group. So, you know, it basically come down to a misalignment as far as expectation of timelines is concerned. Yeah. I'm not really sure, you know, I wouldn't buy that as readily. But that's the statement, so you've got to take it at face value for what it's worth at this point in time.
Masayoshi, I'd just like to come in and highlight some more tweets that Nikesh has put out, and they're really important. They give us a glimpse into his mindset. He goes on further to say, plan to support them, and he's referring to the Softbank portfolio companies for a year, because I guess that's why he was coming under fire, whether these sort of acquisitions make sense for the company or not. So he says that I'm hence continuing as an advisor. He goes on to say that going to continue to support the Indian startup ecosystem, can't change faith, if you change jobs, Masa wanted to be CEO for longer. This seems to be very, very emphatic and very clear in terms of, I don't want to call it that, but does it sound like leadership tussle to you?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the statement and read between the lines, that's clearly what it seems to suggest, that Nikesh Arora wanted to step up and Masayoshi Son was unwilling to let go. So that seems to be couched politely in what they've said out. What they've said in the statement is the difference of expected timeline led to Arora's resignation. So that's a polite way of saying that. Okay. But at the end of the day, this development in the context of the questions that have been raised about Arora's track record at Softbank, perhaps then Masayoshi Son's inability perhaps to step back, maybe this is...
Yeah, Shereen, exactly what was that's exactly the connection I was trying to draw. Is it possible that Masayoshi Son, after although Arora has been cleared, it clearly indicates that a lot of investors in Softbank are still uncomfortable with Arora, and therefore Masayoshi Son changed his mind. It is difficult to dissociate the two decisions, the attack on Arora and Masayoshi Son, then backing off in terms of giving over the mantle. It's quite possible that even if he's cleared, that there are upset investors or skeptical investors is an issue when the new CEO takes on, and therefore this is the patch up. Does that sound like a reasonable interpretation of events?
I think so, Latha. I think so, because if you take a look at what transpired when those shareholder concerns were raised, in the US, not just to Softbank, but also to Sprint, which is a Softbank group company, questioning Nikesh Arora's track record at Softbank, questioning the kind of compensation that he was being given, questioning the fact that Masayoshi Son was actually looking at him as an heir apparent, but the fact that Nikesh hadn't been able to prove himself at Softbank. So I would imagine, that it's perhaps not an unfair assumption to suggest that, yes, Masayoshi Son probably realized that, Arora was making people uncomfortable, and maybe this was the best way to politely extricate both out of a difficult situation.
Shereen, Nikesh will be continuing for the next 1 year. That's what he's tweeting. There will be a lot of questions so he'll continue as an advisor for the next 1 year. And he said that in the next 1 year, he will be looking out for prospective offers, and there are a couple of offers on the table. That's what he's tweeting. He's replying to every single person that's asking him any question. Why do you think he would continue as an advisor despite having the difference of opinion? Would it just be largely for portfolio companies and clients to give them that smoother?
Yeah, and I also think that, one should look at this in the context of a polite exit. I mean, Softbank, at the end of the day, is probably not trying to make this ugly or bitter, and in the light of the sort of, clearance that was given to Arora, perhaps trying to sort of ease his departure.
So, Shereen, we have Sanjay Mehta with us. Sanjay is an early investor in Oyo, which is Softbank's portfolio company. Sanjay, thanks for joining in on the line. Does this concern you? After the speculation, after the clean chit, and now his exit, would this be a concern for Softbank's portfolio companies now?
I don't think so. I think Softbank as an institution is well governed, and they would be able to manage their portfolio in India very well.
Okay. Would you take anything from this in terms of, it's just slightly curious with the fact that the clean chit was given yesterday and today he's exiting. Would this be a concern for you at all?
No, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't make anything into this.
Right.
How are you reading the departure? What may have been the reasons?
It might be, there would be some difference of opinion which might have happened across, but more or less, I think, it's while investments or the investor group as an, early investors, we are more, because there are multiple stakeholders in Oyo with Sequoia, Lightspeed, and also Softbank. So I don't see much of a concern as such from an investor perspective.
Sanjay, has there been any communication made to portfolio companies like Oyo? You worked in tandem with Softbank while investing in Oyo. Has there been any communication to portfolio companies? Will there be a communication if not already done yet?
No, we didn't have any communication as such.
Okay. Will you be at least addressing portfolio companies' concerns going ahead? Has there been any kind of communication that has come in from SoftBank side yet on the management change?
No, not that I've heard of.
Not yet. Okay, the larger question...
Sorry, Kritika, if I can just come in here. I've just been trying to sort of piece this together. Now, I understand, and this is what we've been discussing, it seems that this was a joint decision, and Mr. Masayoshi Son wanted to continue as the CEO for a number of years to implement future initiatives that he has in mind, and hence did not want to keep Nikesh as a CEO in waiting indefinitely. So both thought that this action would actually be for each other's benefit, and hence the decision has been taken. It's apparently been a joint decision. This is Ron Fisher, in partnership with Alok Sama, will take over the management of the investment side of the business. So that's the additional information that we do have. Nikesh's chairmanship at Yahoo Japan will also end, so he will be stepping down from Yahoo Japan as well. This will not change the SoftBank 2.0 strategy that was laid out by both Masayoshi Son and Nikesh Arora as a vision for SoftBank. So the SoftBank 2.0 strategy continues. Also, I am given to understand that Masayoshi Son believes there is complete agreement in using the proceeds of the recent exits to strengthen financial position and capital structure. Nikesh Arora will also step down as a director of Sprint. Remember, Sprint is one of the group companies of SoftBank, and he will step down from both Yahoo Japan as well as Sprint. And Nikesh will continue to spearhead the growth-oriented investments that they've made in companies like Snapdeal, Ola, Oyo, and he will also provide strategic guidance for the sale of some of the shareholding in Alibaba and Supercell. So those are some of the contributions that they're attributing to Nikesh. But net, it seems to be that Masayoshi Son has decided, perhaps because of the kind of pressure that was being put on SoftBank, if one were to read between the lines, to continue as CEO, and did not want to keep Nikesh Arora as CEO in waiting indefinitely, which has led to his departure from SoftBank.
Okay, Shereen, what you've been working, you've been speaking to Nikesh Arora, you've been speaking to SoftBank. What would be the immediate challenges or the concerns that portfolio companies will have right now? Because the fact that there has been a difference of opinion between the chairman and the CEO, the fact that there is going to be a complete change at the helm now with Nikesh gone, given the fact that Nikesh was the one who used to interact with the portfolio companies here, what would be the immediate challenges that they will have to address right now?
I think the immediate challenge will be for a lot of these portfolio companies, given the fact that it's a difficult environment already that the startup ecosystem is facing, with funds drying up. A lot of their portfolio companies like housing. In fact, we have the housing CEO on the channel today talking about rebuilding housing.com. So a lot of these portfolio companies have been going through a difficult period already. So it's going to be now an added layer of uncertainty with Nikesh Arora going. But there is a team that's been put in place, Alok Sama and Ron Fisher, who will take over the investment side of the business. So this only adds to the layer of uncertainty as far as some of SoftBank's portfolio companies in India are concerned. So the challenge at this point in time will be to just ensure, that there is a degree of stability in an already unstable environment.
Shereen, Nikesh was a COO. Just to remind our viewers, Masayoshi Son was the chairman and CEO of the company. Would it be crucial for SoftBank to immediately replace Nikesh, or do you believe that perhaps the current management, the vice president, the presidents of the company would be able to kind of take over at this point in time?
Well, one doesn't really know, but it would seem a little odd, right? I mean, if Masayoshi Son's explanation for this development is that he wants to continue to lead, and he's very clear that Nikesh he continues to have faith in Nikesh Arora but didn't want to keep him as CEO in waiting, that they would then try and bring in a replacement for Nikesh, or at least bring in a replacement immediately for Nikesh. It would make this an even curiouser development. So I think, I'm not sure, I don't have any independent information on that, but I would imagine that we probably are not going to see a replacement for Nikesh Arora at least anytime soon at this point.
Okay, and in terms of, we're completely running out of time, Shereen. So one last question with respect to what lies ahead for SoftBank. You pointed out the kind of challenges, but do you believe that they need to at least address investor concerns with respect to Nikesh's exit?
I would imagine that they will, have conversations with their portfolio companies. Will try and explain what the transition will be and how this is likely to impact SoftBank's strategy, if at all, though they are very categorically telling people that SoftBank strategy of SoftBank 2.0 is unlikely to change or see any modifications. But I would imagine that, in all fairness, they will need to explain what the transition would mean and how they intend to sort of stabilize these companies with this latest development.
Okay, and just to remind our viewers, the portfolio companies of SoftBank include big names, and as Shereen was pointing out, from Oyo to Housing.com to Snapdeal. We'll try to get you more reactions from perspective from portfolio companies, from investors that they've been talking to, as well as the management themselves through the day.